I just wanted to just clarify who this channel is for and who this channel is not for. This was something that nobody plans for, especially when you are young. So recently I have gotten a lot of new subscribers, and I quickly realized that you guys don't really know who I am, and you have this belief system that is 100% a fallacy. So in this video, we're going to clear some things up, not because I have to or have anything to prove, just because I want to level the playing field so that way we all have a common understanding of what's really going on over here on this side of YouTube. So first and foremost, my name is Shanielle. I am a health coach, and I've been sharing with you guys my family's journey of us purchasing land the first time, and also documenting our family's journey of purchasing land soon to be a second time, so we hopefully don't have to go through this again, because this is definitely a stressful process. So my main source of content here on this channel is for women. I want to help empower women who are dealing with health struggles, who are looking for clarity on how to make dietary and lifestyle changes to have a better life, because nobody wants to be sick. This channel is like my virtual diary in a sense. So you're gonna see a lot of behind the scenes that I don't show on my other social media channels, and over there you're gonna see things that you wouldn't normally see over here, okay? To get a better feel of my personality. I'm also a mother of 3 little beautiful people, and I am a wife. So a lot of people have been questioning why we are doing this whole buying land thing, and really asking me if I did research the very first time. Some people have asked me what I do, so I'm gonna answer a lot of your questions. I didn't bring my phone with me out here, so I'm just gonna go off the dome and improvise. So let's start with the defining factor that everybody needs to know. I am a Marine Corps veteran, okay? That changes a lot of things for you who are watching my channel, who are following along on my journey and are intending on doing this journey yourselves, because obviously things are going to vary based off of our individual situations. So because I'm a veteran, I have access to a lot of opportunities, and one of them is being able to buy land, especially because we live in Texas, and Texas loves veterans. But a lot of you had a lot of negative things to say about me wanting to buy land and going through this whole process, especially when it came to the first time that we did this. As you can see, you guys really tried it, but it's not gonna work the way that you thought it was gonna work, because your negativity, it ain't doing nothing but making me finer. Understand? So a veteran, specifically a disabled veteran, has opened up a lot of doors for me. If you want a whole separate video about my time in the Marine Corps, things that I've learned, things that I would redo, I will definitely make a video about that.
I've never publicly stated on YouTube that I was a veteran,
because I know how there's some negative misconceptions about the military, especially here in America. But the cat's out the bag, I have to tell you guys, because if not, then this whole journey isn't going to make sense. Another person had asked what I do for a living, so I briefly touched on that already. I am a online business owner, okay? So I help women online who are looking for dietary and lifestyle changes that they can do that are sustainable long term to change their lives. I have all of the things for that listed down below, my website, as well as all of my social medias, and even my podcast. So if you want to tune in and learn more, or even book a free consultation, you're gonna have to wait for the free consultation, because I temporarily took that off the website as an option, because a lot of things are going on right now and I don't want to put too much on my plate. Another thing that I want to mention is that because I am a disabled veteran, I have found ways to capitalize off of being a veteran, okay? Not a lot of people realize this, but because veterans have access to a lot of opportunities pertaining to real estate, it would behoove of you, if you are a veteran watching this, to get your financial literacy game up. If you have any questions about that, I would be so elated to share that with you, because this is a topic that I have been reading books upon, writing books, reading books on. I don't know why I can't talk. Listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, consuming content left and right, and even talking to people who are in different tax brackets than me, so I can understand how to set myself up as a now 30-year-old mom of 3 who is soon to be having a estate here in the DFW area. My husband, I love you. I know he's watching. He's been everything. Why can't I talk? He's been everything from a mechanic to doing renovations on libraries, working for big companies, to now he is working in a different form of construction where he is building bridges in Dallas, which is super cool. And soon he is working on a lot of other things, like becoming a crane operator and going on his own entrepreneurial path, which I am super excited for him for taking this leap and, like thriving since we have moved to the DFW area from our last property. So now let's go back. Now that I've answered that question, let's take it a little bit back to 2020 when I met my husband. Okay, I was a single mother, fresh veteran. Okay, I didn't know nothing. I was living in a house with roommates who were also veterans, who had 2 kids, but I only had 1 at the time, and I was just trying to figure life out. I was working odd jobs. I was doing commissary work, restocking shelves and things like that. And then also I was working at nightclubs just to have some extra money. Plus I was a full-time college student. How was I balancing this? I was not sleeping. It was not a fun time. And then COVID happened and I met my husband. Well, when we had met, we had a commonality, which was that we didn't when we had met, we had a commonality, which is that we didn't want to be controlled, if that makes sense. We didn't like the fact that we were being told by the media and by our local government that we couldn't go to basic places outside because of a disease that was going around, and if we did go outside that we had to wear a mask. It was just something that wasn't really vibing well with either of us, and we wanted to we fantasized. Okay, it's not that we wanted to. We fantasized to the max, to the point where we became obsessed. And our first 2 or 3 dates, we were watching videos on how to build an Earthship. Yeah, we were that invested. Years later in our relationship, I ended up purchasing 40 acres worth of property before we got married. And I did a little bit of research, but not as much as I wish that I would have done initially. But to be fair, I was only 27 years old when I purchased this land. I was actually 26 and just turned 27 a few days after I had signed the closing documentation. So I really didn't know what I was doing, and this was my first ever real estate transaction as a 26-year-old grown woman who at that point had 2 kids. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know about zoning, and I know that you can say, yes, we had access to the internet. We did have access to the internet and still do, but I was a full-time college student. I was getting my health coaching certification on top of getting or completing my associate's degree in business management. So I was busy, and then I had 2 kids. So looking on the internet to research land to that degree of things that we should have known, I didn't do that. I did research on YouTube and things like that, but just not to that degree. So when we went to go look at land, I obviously realized very quickly that land was really expensive, which was something I was uncomfortable with because I had never made a purchase like that ever in my life. So I just kept shopping, and I started to see like certain plots of land cost more, but they were smaller plots. So it might be 10 acres for like $200,000. I didn't understand why. Also, I didn't have access to ChatGPT, so I didn't even, have anybody that I could ask really quick. And I didn't have any family that wasn't estranged from me that I could ask, how to do this thing. I was really just winging it. So we went on ahead, and my husband and I, at that time, boyfriend and I, had went to go look at this property with our 2 kids. And when we walked around, I immediately fell in love, which is not a shock because me and my husband were obsessed with purchasing land in the first place. So at that point, when we purchased the land, okay, our idea leading up to it was that we wanted a property that was 100% off-grid, that was also very remote for safety purposes, okay? We were extremists, and a lot had changed that we didn't account for as far as lifestyle. And that's why we decided 3 years later, because now I'm 30, to go on ahead and to sell. Actually, it's 4 years later. But we decided to sell the property so that way we could make some changes instead of committing to something that really wasn't conducive to our family's growth. We had an HOA, or a POA, a Properties Owners Association. I was told that they were really just there because there were public wells that were available for the cattle mostly, but we could use them, the landowners. And so they maintained the roads, and they also maintained the wells. That's all they really did, and the front gate. That's the only thing that they did. Occasionally we had POA meetings once a year where we would sit down and we would talk. There was like a $200 annual fee, which is nothing in comparison to our home/rental property that we have, which I'll talk more about that in a second. But when we purchased that property, that was our understanding. We did know that commercially there were some restrictions that we couldn't do, and there were some people who figured out a way to finesse it where they were able to rent out sections of their property. I don't know how they did it. I don't know if it was under the table, I never got to talk to those people and ask questions, but we noticed. So I thought, okay, this is something that we can take on. This was something that nobody plans for, especially when you are young. And we made a very, very big mistake. But it worked out in the end. So me and my husband were living in an apartment at the time with our 2 children, and believe it or not, a possum gave our apartment that had carpet fleas, and we had to emergency evacuate because my daughter at the time, she was crawling, and then my son, he was pretty independent. He was about 3 or 4 at the time, and I had over 30 bites on each leg. It was extreme. They were in the shower, we couldn't see them, but they were in the carpet, they were jumping. My bed was high up off the bed, so I kind of had to stay on this island for safety, and it just was I'm not gonna keep paying somebody to fix this issue and then have them gaslight me and tell me that they can't fix this issue. You know what I'm saying? So we went on ahead and had to prematurely end that lease for that property. I want to say 2 months before the lease was going to end anyway, and we found ourselves couch surfing, okay? During that time, me and my husband did get married, but we were bouncing back and forth between his mother's house and his sister's house. We were sleeping on floors. We were sleeping in his mom's guest room that was in the process of being developed. It didn't even have AC, and Texas summers are ridiculously hot, okay? And then at my sister-in-law's house, she had other family members living there as well who were displaced. So it was just a lot going on, trying to raise my kids, trying to go to school full time as well, and then take care of my business that I was in the process of learning how to grow. So now that we have a clear understanding of where I was, where my head was at when we purchased the property, let's talk about what was the in-between time and when I originally started creating content more heavily about this journey. Okay, I'm back. I had to give my baby some snacks because he was screaming. So we decided as a couple that instead of purchasing a house because we had nowhere to live and I didn't want to live in an apartment anymore, that we were going to attempt to develop our property. So we built a rainwater collection system because there wasn't a well on that property and we didn't have the money at the time to purchase a well because wells are expensive, like over $30,000, and we were told that it would cost us possibly even more, if they don't hit water because there's a lot of rock out there. We did eventually find areas where we could have dug a well, which is where we put our pergola, and we found that out by getting 2 metal hangers and walking around, and whichever ones crossed and didn't cross, and we found where there was water right underneath us. We don't know how deep though, but we built that. We tried to do the whole glamping thing, so I bought a bell tent, $1,500 on a credit card. Don't do that bad financial decision. But I bought the bell tent, we put it up, and then we would have to go back to San Antonio because my husband was working as a mechanic and I was also in school full-time. Every time that we came back during the weekends, the tent was blown over or it had been destroyed. And so we would have to put it back up. Eventually it ripped and it just wasn't working. We found ourselves sleeping in our car when we would go to our property, which was 3 hours away from San Antonio. And it was just okay, this is not sustainable. And I gave my husband and I a deadline, because I didn't want to be living with my in-laws forever. So once that deadline started to come up closer to the end of the summer, we made a decision to just go on ahead and purchase a home in San Antonio. That was our second real estate transaction. Technically my second, my husband's first, where we had bought our home, and we 100% purchased that property with the intentions of doing what we do now with it, which was making it a rental property. So we purchased a new build, new construction home in a very nice area. It's not gated or anything, but it's not too far from school, and it's about 20 minutes outside of the city in the northwest San Antonio area. And it's an up and coming development. It's really nice now that we've left. They're doing a lot of fancy things over there that I never thought was possible, and I'm kind of mad because where were those resources at when I was there, But anyway, so we lived there in that home while my husband was a mechanic. I decided to go back to school full time after completing my associate's degree to get my certification as a personal trainer. So once I got the certification as a personal trainer, I was tired of paying for both land, and we also had to pay a mortgage, plus just, our basic lifestyle things, groceries, gas, and things like that. So I basically told my husband, hey man, we got to figure something out. So we both agreed that he was going to quit his job working as a mechanic because he hated it, and we were going to go and buy a camper, which we bought this camper off of Facebook Marketplace, and move out there to our 40-acre property in hopes that we could develop it the right way this time. And I had already spoken to a potential home builder who specialized in metal homes, who was willing to hire my husband due to his construction background. And when we moved to our 40-acre property, he did in fact get a job working for that company. But the thing was, the owner of the company wasn't making that much money, so he ended up scaling back and disclosed to my husband shortly after hiring him that he was going to be letting go of all of his employees and just subcontracting everything out. So essentially he was moving into becoming a general contractor instead of just a regular home builder, which sucked because now We are living on a 40-acre property. My husband's job is now becoming unreliable, not only because he's about to lose his job any day now, but also if it was raining or if the weather wasn't conducive to working outdoors, then he wasn't getting paid for work that day. And he was doing a lot of dangerous things that weren't even up to code, basically risking his life in order to just make, less than $800. It was ridiculous. So he applied for some other jobs, and he did, get a few companies reach out to him and wanted to hire him, but my husband didn't want to work as a mechanic, which was fully understandable, and he just didn't feel comfortable, being too far from us, because we did decide that I was going to sell my car and we were going to keep our truck, making us a one vehicle family. So we had a lot of things happen in about a 4-month time span, and that's when my content started to really get traction, because I was gardening. I love gardening. It's actually something that I do for fun, which I will go more into detail here in a second as well. So while we were doing the whole situation with trying to develop a property, we quickly realized that it wasn't worth it. First and foremost, our truck kept falling apart. We had to replace, I believe it's the gas fuel pump in the vehicle, because the roads, the caliche roads, were just so rocky and unlevel that it was affecting our truck. And so we were constantly having to pay for repairs left and right on it. The roads, weren't very good, like I said. So our tires were failing. We were having to go and get tires randomly. And we just weren't in a place financially to be living there. So we decided, which broke my heart, to sell it. Okay, it broke my heart because I had purchased this property before I even got married. So I was under the assumption that this was something that I was going to be able to pass down to my family, because I am in the business of creating generational wealth, because I didn't grow up with generational wealth. Hello, I had to join the Marine Corps in order to get access to all of the resources that I had. And if I didn't, then I would just be a regular person trying to fend for my life. In the way that civilian people have to do, unless they get a government job or a job that has really good benefits and high pay. So we had our property up for rent, okay? And it didn't go so well initially. We basically had the property on market for 6 months before we got a renter in. And because of our situation, we basically couldn't pay the mortgage, because we were paying for random repairs on our truck that we didn't account for happening, which is why you should always have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up in an emergency fund, which we didn't. I'm learning. Don't judge me, okay? Also, homesteading is really expensive. So I didn't realize this. I thought you just get some wood. Wood is cheap, to build a pergola or to build this or to build that. And no, wood and hardware and things add up very quickly. So something that could be a small little 8x8 box like we did for our chicken run in this video, which I will link if you want to watch how my husband built that, cost us about $800, maybe a little over, to build that. And unfortunately, we couldn't take that structure with us. I have some regrets, but we're learning, okay? This is our first time too. Me and my husband are not homesteaders initially. We are just two people winging it. Another thing to take into account is that why I am doing this, okay? Outside of the thing, this fantasy that my husband and I had curated before it became social media worthy, I wanted to do this because during that time frame, 4-year time frame from me purchasing the land initially until now, I found out that I was diagnosed with severe complex PTSD and anxiety, as well as some little sprinkles of depression. So my mental health took a downturn during the pregnancy with my daughter. And it was important to me to figure out a way where I could feel safe, to regulate my sympathetic nervous system, and to keep myself, stable and not in finding myself in a mental health hospital a second time. So purchasing land for me is therapeutic, okay? Because I like putting my hands in dirt and soil and watching things grow. Also, the color green, is really good for your mental health as well. And putting your hands and feet directly in soil helps your body actually absorb electrons, which help contribute to the electrical charge inside of your body, and your heart is electrical. So this is important things to know. I'm not going to make this video about health though, but to me, waking up every day and gardening, which I had started it at our suburban home, was just something that was therapeutic, and thinking that I could potentially create a food forest or something like that at the 40-acre property was very exciting. At some point, I got the entrepreneurial itch to say, hey, I can share my resources, my 40-acre property, with other people, and they don't have to pay monthly to live here. They can just get the produce that I'm selling, and it's fresh, it'll be organic, and they can trust me because I document this whole process online, so they can see how their food is really being grown. Needless to say, we are now here and we live in an RV park, so I have to postpone a lot of those entrepreneurial itches until the next property. So I hope that provided some clarity about who I am, why I'm doing this. This is not just for clout on social media, and I am not an idiot. I'm actually a college educated grown adult who is an entrepreneur, figuring it out the same way that all people have to on this planet, unless you have a mentor. Another thing to note is that I found out after I had purchased the property that on my father's side, I do have family in Alabama who own land, or who have owned land, who have passed on, years ago before I was even born. So the whole concept of farming and stuff like that is kind of like ingrained into my DNA, and a part of me that was unlocked during this whole time that I hold near and dear to my heart, which is why I'm going to school for agricultural science, because I want to expand on my knowledge and share it with you guys, some for free, some maybe not, who knows, we'll figure that out when we get there. Off of that now, there was a lot of discourse as well in the comments about everybody kept saying, I'm doing it the city way, I'm doing this the suburban way, we should just go back to the city, I just really want to be in the city. No, being in the city actually gives me anxiety, and it scares me. I have PTSD to the max, okay? When we first, let me tell you a story that's gonna be funny to me now, but in the moment it was not funny at all. It was actually scary. I was trembling and I was about to start crying, and I started hyperventilating. When we first transitioned from living on our 40 acres, the first time I felt legit peace of mind as an adult post Marine Corps, I had an anxiety attack. I wanted to go to a mall to grab something really fast before we came here to our RV park, and I found that we had to drive in a underground parking lot underneath the mall, and I started freaking out. I was like, what's gonna happen, with everything in the world right now? Like, what's gonna happen if this building, gets blown up or it gets set on fire? How are we gonna evacuate? I have 3 kids. I'm gonna have to carry 3 kids if my husband is debilitated, or in order for us to get out to safety, and how far am I gonna have to walk, and am I even gonna be able to do that? I started mentally spiraling. Okay, so living in a suburban neighborhood, you can only imagine what I was going through mentally when we lived there. Like, I literally didn't even want to walk outside, and every time I did, I would look around and there was somebody looking directly at my door or directly at me, cars driving by looking at me. And this is a new suburban neighborhood, so there was safety, but I just didn't feel safe, if that makes sense. I want a certain level of seclusion to give me peace of mind. So now that I've told you guys that embarrassing story, I want to let you know that you can, in fact, homestead in the suburbs. How do I know this? Because I had a homestead exemption on our property in the suburbs, 20 minutes outside of the city. Now, wanting to have access to basic conveniences that you can also have in the city, that does not make me less of a city person. And I do know that there is a difference between wanting to live a more remote lifestyle versus wanting to live a rural lifestyle. Those are totally different things. And like I mentioned earlier in this video, these are things that we didn't account for initially. So once we had our third child, who is now 9 months, we did need some basic things for peace of mind. We need to know that if we need to get a helicopter or something like that can come to our property for emergency evacuation, that it can do so in a short period of time. So that means that we do need to live somewhat close to a city. And although I am a part of the conspiracy theory bandwagon with you can't really trust 100% of Western medicine, the one thing that I know for a fact that Western medicine is good at is keeping people alive. Okay? They're good at keeping people alive, baseline. Okay? That's really about all I really trust them with, is just they can keep your heart beating and they can keep you breathing, unless they give you a fatal dose of some medication, which is why I became a health coach in the first place, because something similar happened to my mom. If you want more in detail about why I became a health coach, I can make a separate video about that, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video because it's already getting pretty long. Us living on a property isn't just an internet dream, and this is not just a clout seeking thing or an attention seeking thing. This is something that is genuinely near and dear to me. And I know that a lot of people on the internet are interested in having this type of lifestyle and are unaware of what all goes into having this type of lifestyle, which is why I decided to document this journey, so that people didn't end up purchasing 40 acres of remote land and not knowing how much it's going to cost for things like solar, things like water, things, like how much gas is going to take, financial aspects of it, as far as like budgeting, having a savings, being able to afford to build infrastructures on your property. These things take some base level of education that I believe only come from experience. Either you need to know somebody who's gone through it, or you're gonna have to go through it yourself. And because I didn't know anybody, I had to figure it out myself the hard way. That is okay. Our property, because I held on to it for so long, for those who are new to real estate or some seasoned real estate individuals, you are aware that if you hold on to a raw piece of land or a house or whatever for just long enough, you don't have to hold on to it for the rest of your lifetime. You can sell it, because they're not making any more land. They're very limited. So that asset is lucrative. Okay, so our property is currently up for sale, and we're looking at profiting roughly 18 to 20K. I'm hoping that we can get the higher amount. That really just depends on later on down the line. It's going to take about a year for this property to sell, based off of what our real estate agent told us. So I will document that when we get to that point and share it with you guys. Right now, I just wanted to clarify who this channel is for and who this channel is not for. This channel is not for you if you think that you know everything, or if you're coming over here to spread negativity. This channel is really just made to help people get access to information that they would most likely have to pay for, and some people can't afford to pay for it. So you're on YouTube University for a reason. That is who we are, what we stand for, and why we are doing this, okay? I covered the basic things, what we do for a living, what our goals are. For the property is something that I haven't spoken about, but I will create a separate video about, because this video is already getting super duper long, and I want to let you guys know, if you are interested in purchasing land, how you can buy land and get it to make you money. Because whether you like it or not, we need money to survive. I have 3 kids. They need things, okay? Basic things. And the fact that the average pair of shoes for a child range from as low as like $13 and as high as like $80 for a child, like a 6-year-old's pair of shoes. You need money and you need basic financial literacy skills, which I am occurring and have occurred a little bit of, where I feel more comfortable making videos talking about finances, if and only if you are interested. If you're not interested, I may make one video, but not a whole bunch. Another thing I want to share with you guys before we close out today's video is today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Pacha Soap Co. Okay, so if you are looking for a healthier skincare alternative, I'm talking soap primarily, okay? You don't want something that is going to leach harmful chemicals into your body and destroy you from the inside out, then you need to check out Pacha Soap Co. Okay, they not only get all of their ingredients sourced from small farms, but they are also a natural company that is organic, that uses 100% sustainable practices to make their products, and they smell good, like chef's kiss good. Okay, so good it's almost sinister, because you think you can eat it, but you probably shouldn't, because it's soap, you know? So go ahead and check them out. I will put the link down below. I have a discount code as well for 10% off any purchase that you make from Pacha Soap Co. This is perfect, especially around the holidays. If you know somebody who is a healthy person, who is really particular about the things that they put on their body and the things that they consume, they would love, 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 capital L, this particular brand's products, because they are great. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys is that we are going to look at land. We have been here in the DFW general area for almost 2 months, and talking with realtors and doing our own research, we finally just bit the bullet and realized that we're either going to be paying more for land if we want 40 acres, or we're going to be paying less for land, but we will get a smaller land lot. So we have come to a compromise, and we are going to go look at land, and I am going to be showing you guys that in the next YouTube video. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, so that way you can see some of the properties that we will potentially be purchasing, and then also some things to look out for along this journey, and just more general information. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope it was helpful and provided some level of clarity to my viewers, because I want to cultivate a happy, healthy space with you guys, okay? No more drama. I can't control the internet, you know, but just be easy, or I'm just gonna have to just ignore your comments, okay? And that's just me being honest, because the world is already a negative place, and hurt people, or say mean things to people just because you're hurt. So I wish you love, and I wish you opportunity, and hopefully you're able to get to a point, if you are one of those negative people who have made those comments, where you can feel like you are worthy of having a fulfilling, loving, successful life. And for those people who are on the more positive spectrum, who have decided to follow along on our journey, I thank you guys so much. This is something I've been wanting to do for so long, but I've been so scared because social media is kind of scary to me, believe it or not. And so I'm getting over this anxiety by making these videos. So thank you so much for supporting me. Go ahead and comment down below any questions that you have or any potential videos that you may want me to make in the future, because I will make them if you want them. Okay? Have a good one, guys. Peace.